everybody, Caleb here, and today I've got a brand new Martin D28. This is a 2022 Martin. This is basically brand new from the factory. It actually still smells a lot like rosewood, so if that gives you any semblance of how new it is. But these new Martins, they come in a kind of a standard way so that you have them set up to you once you've got them, because as they ship them all over the world, they go out, stuff moves, they adjust for temperature and humidity and that sort of thing. So I've got to set this one up today. So I thought I'd take you along on basically the whole setup, from me setting it down all the way up to tuning it back up for the last time. So, I can kind of cover all the things I have to look at. So I think we're ready to go here. I'll set this down and we can get started. So while we've still got the strings up to tension, the best thing to do for me to check first will be the neck relief. So to do that, I'm going to put a capo on the first fret. That way I take out any variance from the nut height, so I'm sitting on the first fret. Then I'm going to hold it at the body join, and that takes out any variance from the saddle height. And that way I am only working within the fretboard. So now I'll slide my measuring tool in at the 7th fret and tap it, see where we're at. We're sitting at about 20 thousandths of an inch, which is just a hair high. I think we're looking for, a little closer to 15 to get it perfect. And, on a brand new Martin guitar, we could definitely use perfect. So we could use just a little bit of a tighten on there to help that out. Now, for the sake of argument, let's do the bass string as well. It's sitting under 30 thousandths, so it's not terrible. But it's well within range. I'm going to go ahead and tighten it up just a little bit. So I'm going to loosen these strings a hair, give that truss rod just a little bit of a tighten, and then make sure they're back up to pitch. I don't want to tighten the truss rod while the strings are under tension, because you're actually pulling it even more. So you're putting more tension on those strings and you're more likely to cause problems. So I'll loosen them a little bit. We'll give that truss rod just a little tighten and then tighten them right back up. So after a quick adjustment on the truss rod, we'll check this again. I'll push down on the fret where the body joint is, and we'll check this at the 7th fret. It's definitely lower, which is good. That's what I was aiming for. And it wasn't terrible as it was, so I think we're sitting good there. Now the next thing to check will be the nut height. So we know that the relief is set very well, and we're about to check the slots at the nut to make sure the height off the first fret is good, but we don't know that the saddle is set where it needs to be. So to take that out of the equation, what we're going to do is we're going to put a capo on the 3rd fret. But since we're working in this direction, it's actually going to be setting the strings on this 1st fret. So that takes everything past this capo out of the equation. I don't have to worry about any of it on that side. So I'm really just looking at the string height off of the nut based on the 1st fret. As soon as we get past that, we stop. So the height I'm looking for is about 10 thousandths of an inch, which is very, very thin. So I've gone ahead and made a pick about that thin. I'm not going to claim it's perfectly consistent all the way across. It is plastic, but I will be able to gauge this now, basically by tightness, that it's about there. When you're talking in the thousandths of an inch, we're talking almost imperceptible differences. So as long as I'm, close here, that's all that really, really matters. And it's sitting very, very nice. It's not like too low, but obviously it's low enough to hold it, which means that it's good. I can put it down on this side as well. I don't really think it's raising the string, but it is sliding underneath of it tight enough for it to hold it. It might be raising it a little. Yeah, it's definitely raising that one a little bit, which is good. You want a tighter fit on the treble side than you have on the bass side. And this one, it goes in a lot easier. And I think it might be raising it a hair too. So those strings are very, very low at that first fret when you ignore the rest of it. So these are good. The nut slot is good. What may be a problem, actually, I noticed this as I was tuning this down to adjust the truss rod, is I have a little bit of binding on the D and the G string. So it could probably use a little bit of lubrication in those slots. So I'll get a little bit of pencil lead, which is graphite, and just help lubricate those slots a little bit. They don't look too deep. It's this treble string is right on the edge of being maybe too deep. It doesn't seem to be a problem with tuning, so I'm probably not going to deal with it in order to save some time and save some money on this. What it's looking like is most of our setup issue is on the other side. Now that we have the relief set well and the nut height set well, we're going to start looking at the saddle height. And that is what I think is most wrong with this guitar. I'll go ahead and start measuring this here. So I'll measure this off of the 12th fret to the string. We're coming up almost about 140 thousandths of an inch on the bass E string. What I like that to be is about 90 thousandths of an inch. So we got a difference of about 50 thousandths on the bass string. Now I'll check the high E string as well. About 130 thousandths of an inch. And I want that to be about 80 thousandths of an inch. So it's about the same difference, about 50 thousandths. Now I only measured the outside two because this saddle has the radius in it that matches the frets, the fretboard. As I lower those outside two, it will obviously lower all the rest of them as one. If you had individual saddles for each string, you would need to measure each string individually. But because this is all one, it all moves together, I should be good just measuring these outside strings. So I need to drop it 50 thousandths of an inch at the 12th fret. And to do that, I have to double it at the saddle. So I have to lower it 100 thousandths at the saddle. That's quite a bit. That's going to bring this down to where it's going to be basically perfect. So now I need to loosen all these strings, take all the pins out, take the saddle out, and start marking it up to take some of the bottom off of that saddle. So I've got my bridge pin holder here. This helps keep them all in order. Sometimes that helps them fit back in the holes. I imagine on this Martin it won't make much of a difference, but I'll keep them in order just the same. So we take that saddle out of there now. It fits very well in that slot. It doesn't move, doesn't wiggle. So that's good. Now I can work on marking this thing up. So I've got my caliper set to exactly 100 thousandths of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off so I don't run my battery down. And it's locked down, so that's exactly where we're at. And that's what I'd like to take off the bottom of the saddle here. Now, if I put that back in the saddle slot, I have 100 thousandths off the bottom here. And I can kind of run that across and see about where the saddle's going to sit. And I can see that I'm still above the bridge throughout. You know, I've got a good distance. If I was getting close to, getting closer to the top of the bridge where there wouldn't be any saddle sticking out, I may start to worry about neck angle, height of the bridge, break angle for strings, but I can see that I've got a gap yet still. So I think we're doing good. What I'm going to do is mark this up with a permanent marker. I am just going to do both sides. I typically mark this on the front of the saddle, the side that's facing the neck. It's just kind of what I've gotten in the habit of doing. so that when I have to put it back in, I don't think about it much. I think this side goes forward and I just put it back in the slot. But now that I've marked that up with permanent marker, I can take my calipers and actually just scratch in my 100,000ths line. So I believe you can see there, I've got a line on each side. I'll sand it up to that line, and that will be exactly 100,000ths of an inch off. I'll basically just do this on the disc sander, knock it off to there, put it back in the slot, make sure it looks good. I'll go ahead and take care of that, and I'll bring you back once I'm putting it all back together. So I've just finished tuning this back up, and the action is looking really good. We're sitting on just a hair over 90,000ths on the bass side, and just a hair over 80,000ths of an inch on the treble side. That's sitting really good. The only thing I think that there's actually left to do here is to check the intonation. And so to do that, we're going to make sure that we're totally in tune. I'll go through this string by string. We're perfectly in tune on that open E string. Then we'll hit it at the 12th fret and see where we are there. And it's spot on, which is, pretty expected for a brand new Martin guitar. Perfect. 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 The intonation is great. It's what I would expect out of a brand new guitar, intonation-wise. I think this thing is set up pretty much as good as it could be at this point. The action is now comfortably playable. I did go ahead and tighten this strap button as well. It was just a little bit loose, but it's now on there tight. I'm happy with that. I think this thing is as good as it's going to be for a brand new guitar. I guess I'll go ahead and get ready to play it, and we can send this thing back to its owner. Well, I am really happy with how this guitar turned out. It's finally playing like a brand new Martin should, and that's pretty much all you can say. The action's set so much lower than it was when I first got it. It's playable. The customer had mentioned that he liked the way it sounded, but it was really hard to play for any period of time. And the way the strings were off of the frets, I totally understand why. You were really fighting it to get the strings on the frets. Now it's set up so much better. So I hope you enjoyed watching me go through this whole guitar, basically the whole setup thing. I tried to record pretty much everything on this one as to what I would do and when I would do it. And I think we covered a lot of stuff. A lot of, if you wanted to do it yourself, here's how you could do it, sort of things. I guess I'll go ahead and play it now as I close this out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.